Today on the podcast, we have Tony, Myles, and Heather Flies. Welcome to the podcast. How are y'all doing?
Hey, thanks. Good.
Good.
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, let's start off with some introductions. Heather, why don't you go first, and then we'll go to Tony.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Heather, coming to you from the great state of Minnesota, and technically from my Tigger room. I have an entire room in my house dedicated to my earthly hero, Tigger. So I'm currently among 149 Tigger items. So it's a very happy place. I am born and bred here in Minnesota. I love it. I love the winters. They're my favorite. And I hope I never have to leave here. And I am the junior high pastor at Wooddale Church, which is in a southwest suburb called Eden Prairie here. And I'm in my 32nd year of youth ministry, and specifically 28 years at the same church as the junior high pastor. So junior hires are my favorite people in the universe, and this is all I want to be doing for the rest of my life, and I'm living my dream job.
Heather,
and I'm married.
Amazing.
Sorry, I forget.
Oh, go ahead. You forget you're married, but you knew 149 Tiggers. I'm just saying.
I know, right? I'm
Priorities.
So sorry, Chad. Married to my husband, Chad, and we have 2 St. Bernards. Those are our family members. They collectively weigh almost 300 pounds and are slobbery, wonderful messes. And Chad volunteers with me in the junior high ministry. That's actually how we met. He was not a junior hire. Creepy. He was a volunteer. He came onto the team, and we've been married 24 years.
I was thinking 28 years at the same church. There's a world where like one of your middle school students could be the pastor, now.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
right?
Like,
yes.
Yeah,
it's
that
true.
would be amazing. That would be awesome.
It's true.
All right, Tony.
First of all, I went in Tigger room too. Like I think I getting set up in Tigger rooms. I would have set up something here. So I feel really Tiggerless right now. But that said, yeah, I'm Tony. I'm also in Minnesota. I did not grow up here. Did not import here as many years ago as Heather has been here. I've been here about since 2017. And before that, just was a Midwest guy. Grew up in Chicago. Got saved in high school at just a great church. Started interning there. Felt a call to ministry, and was in student ministry really exclusively for a number of years. Ended up going to Ohio before I was here for about 10 years doing lead pastor role. And just in that time, God just showed me a heart for the next generation in a new way, meeting, discipling parents and discipling leaders and growing that. So it's always really been anchored to student ministry in some way. And and these days I am at Riverside Church also in Minnesota, just not as Eden Prairie, but cooler in its own way. We have bridge construction, so we have that to boast about right now.
Exciting, very exciting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great. Road construction season. So there's that, and then I serve I lead our multi-site student ministry, work with our teaching team as well on Sundays, do some young adult stuff, internship residency. So just kind of a jack of all trades as needed here. And then just trying to find ways to serve youth workers and parents outside of our church too. So both Heather and I have a huge passion to just equip and share what God's doing in our lives. And I've been married to my best friend too. We just celebrated 30 years together this summer, which is a fun anniversary. And kids, got a 23-year-old and a 20-year-old boy, and each of them. And then also have a girl who's 14. So we're in the middle of that multi-stage parenting thing.
Yep. You can see the road signs for the empty nest season, I suppose. There.
Well,
yeah, you can see that coming. Yeah. Well, you talked about serving other youth leaders and church leaders, and we're going to talk about a book that you all wrote. I also want to talk about your student ministries. I always just love hearing about other churches' student ministries, and especially when you've done it for 3 decades, like you all have. There's just so much wisdom there. The book you wrote is Single, Dating, Friendships, and Romance: Questions for All Your Answers. There you go. Showing it. If you're not watching the YouTube version, then you don't know, but Heather is displaying it right now. Who did the cover? Neither of you did the cover, did you? Or did you?
Oh, no, we did not.
We chimed in on it. We kind of were like, hey, what if it looked like this? And then somebody sneezed and they did amazing art and it was so good.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to tell me. We chimed in and they didn't want any of our ideas. And
well, could be. Yeah, we wanted it to be fun, but yet, not kiddish, right? And really wanted to display the primary topics that were in there. So I love it. I'm a big fan of confetti, and so I'm happy.
It looks great.
Well, and fun fact, The only reason I think confetti exists is because we were looking at what they sent us on my laptop, and it had speckled like dirt on the screen. And Heather goes, "Is that
Oh,
confetti?" I'm like, "No, it's just my dirty laptop." And she goes, "But I like the confetti." So that stuck
You're right.
around.
So it became dirt became confetti. That's great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's great. Hey, sometimes the best ideas come from the most random places. So I think that works. That's awesome. Well, I'd like to start talking just a little bit. I'd love to hear just a little bit about your youth ministries. And I'd love to hear like what's working well. Maybe we'll start there, and then we could talk about maybe some barriers that you're facing. So whoever wants to go first, what do you think is working well now, like right now, in your student ministry?
Go for it, Tony.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, uh, you get to a place in ministry where you start out maybe trying to make a name for yourself to prove that you know something, and then you kind of go, I don't know that I know everything, and you start getting a little bit more honest about that, and you start doing life with leaders. I think youth ministry's greatest secret is there really isn't any secret as long as you're teachable, as long as you're willing to say, hey, what's going on? How are we doing this? And so, for example, next week we have a leaders meeting that we do with our parents. I think that's one of the things that's really working well is we started a ministry called PALS, which is Parents and Leaders of Students. And we have a Facebook group that we do with them. We bring them together for any type of training. So anytime there's a parenting event, anytime there's a youth leader event, we just say, why don't you guys come join us? And in those meetings, we'll share, hey, here's what we're learning, but then what are you learning? And so just having that open posture to try to learn from each other, that seems to be going really good. Another investment that I've really tried to make over the years is our ministry is pretty sizable, and I can't know everybody, but maybe I could know it and really help mature 10% of the ministry. So we have a ministry you and I, Nick, have talked about called Squad that is just all about investing into that circle of leaders within the ministry. And that's going really good. And then our church in general just tries to be outward focused. One of my favorite things that we do as a church is anytime somebody tells us they've said yes to Jesus for the first time ever, and we checked and they haven't told us in the past, we light a physical candle on stage that next Sunday. And just to say, hey, one person, 2 people, 20 people said yes to Jesus. And what I love about that is if we don't see candles for a while, everybody goes, you know what? We got to get out there and start reaching people. So lots of great things happening. A lot of it is just because of the DNA of our church. But, God has been really gracious to us through the pandemic, through coming out of that, and that really being a win for setting those priorities up.
That's great. That's awesome.
Wow. Interesting. Probably no surprise since Tony and I have been at it very similar timeframes. When I first started in ministry, I was 19, and all I knew is I love kids and I love Jesus. And I did not mind that the ministry revolved around me and that kids wanted to be with me and wanted me to lead their group and wanted me to come over to their house for dinner. And what I have just learned is that I can't be the center. And my favorite goal is to have my volunteer staff team represent the body of Christ and to have all different kinds, all different backgrounds, all different personalities, all different testimonies, all different skin color, all different financial status. I mean, everything that you can think of, because I've just come to realize that even though I love kids and I'm pretty good with kids, there are kids that I scare. I mean, I literally have kids who cry when they meet me for the first time because I'm so intense and I'm so overwhelming. And so to have a variety of people where there is such a variety of kids in the room, right? Like for them to see somebody who looks like them or talks a little bit more like them or acts like them or has a story like them is just so powerful. And so I love looking at my team and just seeing that representation and then just seeing the gifting that they bring and to put them on stage and to put them in pastoral roles with their kids as small group leaders and stuff. So it just gets me jazzed up. And we've got a great reputation at our church where the junior high staff, I've got people who've been with me 19 years, 16 years, 12 years, 25 years. Because they come in and they fall in love not only with the students, but with the ministry and what we're doing. And so they don't advance on, they don't circle back down. They just stay with us and become junior high specialists. So I love that. That's working really well. We're a little bit different in our ministry that we minister to 7th, 8th, and 9th graders in our junior high. And that was way back before I came. They tried to match the school systems. And then what they realized is often the school systems were just according to building size and how many kids or grades they could get in. And so we just realized that the seventh, eighth, and ninth grade really worked well for us. And so one of the things that we're doing well is we're trying to help those ninth graders, that third year group, know that they're special and that they're different. And we acknowledge that. So like on Wednesday night this last week, we went on a ninth grade formal dinner cruise. So my incoming ninth graders, we went on an Alan Alma's cruise on Lake Minnetonka, and it was just for them and just helping them understand that we get that you're different. Like there was only one programming piece of the whole night outside of the meal, and the rest was just them hanging out and taking pictures and enjoying each other because we know they can handle that. During our Love, Sex, and Dating series in February, there's always a time where we take the ninth graders away to just talk about things that we know we can't talk about in a room that's filled with seventh and eighth graders, but that they're dealing with. So all my friends I talk to across the nation who have a 3-year program, it's always a challenge to keep that third year engaged, right? To keep them feeling like I've been there, done that. We also have a doctrinal class that we do only for ninth graders on Sunday afternoons for 18 sessions during their ninth grade year. So that's working really well for us to help them feel we acknowledge that you're different, but not so special that you start to separate from the overall group, but enough that you're like, okay, you get us.
That's great. Do most of your leaders do seventh, eighth, ninth, come back, do seventh, eighth, ninth? Is that what that looks like? Yeah.
Yep. It's awesome.
Yeah. Have you all read, I'm putting you on the spot here. I did not know of this. I guess I read some quote or something from Adam Grant and he wrote an article, I think it was in New York Times or something, about the idea of looping in education, where like in other countries, one of the biggest things that helped their, students with their education was looping, like teachers going from first to second with their kids and third. And I was like, oh, I'm saving that. That's a ministry application right there. Like a lot of churches are doing that now, but just to see the impact of it working in education in other places was kind of fun too. So yeah, I'm a big.
My wife did that. She taught in the public school and did that first, second loop, and just had such a greater community with those students that second year. It was really powerful. I think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah. One of our kids got it, but it was totally by accident. It just happened to be the teacher was going up a grade and, just happened to get her. And, but it was great. It was huge. It was helpful. It was very helpful. That's great. What about barriers? What are some barriers you're facing now? Challenges that you think maybe it's unique to you, but maybe it's like all of us are facing this.
Well, so
I don't have any. I got to think, Tony. So you go ahead first.
You don't have any?
It's all good.
No, I'm going to narrow mine down from 74. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was like, man, like where do they start? I mean, honestly, we're always, I think in our roles, we have to be bilingual. We have to be translating to students the values of the church and translating to the church the values of student ministry. So there's always some sort of departmental miscommunication that could be happening because we've got this crazy idea to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times church goes, well, wait, why are you doing that? So like, for instance, right now, our church just bought a bunch of new chairs, like really nice chairs. And they are the kind that flip up and down. And I'm thinking like, had I been sitting on that committee, I might have suggested how that could impact attention spans on a Wednesday night, but I'm not. So you get behind it, you go, hey, these chairs are going to be great. And then we've got kids drawing on them because they're just a different surface than our last chair. So trying to help some of our artistic sixth graders understand like this is not as a surface for you to, make a Picasso, which is what they're doing. So sometimes it's that kind of stuff. I think otherwise, we're just dealing with what everybody deals with, which is as kids get older, do they continue to want to stay engaged? Do they want to tap out? And we just did our summer camp, and one of the things we do at summer camp is Spirit Wars. So we talk about looping. We actually loop our 11th, 12th graders together. And part of that is because we want our seniors to remember you're still in high school, have fun while you're here. And we want our juniors to think ahead and go, one day you're not going to be in high school and you should be hanging out with some seniors to kind of be thinking about your future. But what else ends up happening is while a lot of them naturally might be getting jobs or tapping out because of like educational stuff, there's a larger community to draw them in. And attendance is not hit as hard if suddenly all of our seniors have a senior event. It still looks like we have an 11th, 12th grade group intact. So just those types of things, we're just always trying to make sure we're creating engagement. But at our camp recently, we just saw that the DNA of our 11th graders in a really cool way impacted the DNA of our 12th graders that can't because they've graduated up now. And so those guys and ladies that could have been easily grumpy and saying, I'm done here, they're now being pulled in. So, it's always being strategic and looking at what the waves of personality are in each grade and trying to just minister as best as you can.
Mm. Yeah, I'll choose two different shifts that I've seen. I'd say like in the last 10 years. One of them is that church used to be a priority for families. They would just say, "Yeah, this is what we're doing," and it would just happen. And what's interesting is that my family will tell you that they love do church. They love the junior high ministry. They love all the things that we do. But what has happened is it has become one of 8 great options on a Wednesday night or on a weekend. So yeah, oh my son loves coming on Wednesday nights. I mean, as long as he doesn't have hockey, or as long as the workload isn't too hard for school, or as long as she doesn't have dance, and so it's all of these amazing things that kids have to choose from, and they're excited when they get to come, but it's no longer a priority. It's one of many great options. And the challenge of how do you minister to that? How do you minister when you get a kid, twice a month on Wednesday nights versus 4 times a month? How do you not shame them? How do you, elevate them on whatever field or court they're on when they're not with you? But it's hard. It's hard.
Mhm.
And I would say the second shift is, 10 years ago, if I met a kid for the first time on a Wednesday night and I said, "Hey, do you have a church you normally go to? Do you have a home church?" Usually a kid would come up with something, right? Like, "Oh yeah, that Pax Christi," and I'd have to like finish it for them or something, or, "Oh, we go with our grandma to the Lutheran church on Christmas and Easter." I started seeing about probably 6 or 7 years ago that kids go, "No." And I say, "Well, like, do you go somewhere on Christmas or Easter or like with your grandma?" "No." Like literally zero connection to any kind of faith institution. And so, but in the middle of that, you still have amazing families who've been at Wooddale since the child was born and going through our program. So when you've got that reality in your room on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning, how do you teach to that? How do you spiritually formate, with formation? And so that is a big, big challenge when they have zero base at all.
Mm, true. And it's also like a great opportunity too, right? Now you get to reach
Right?
these people that, really are not a part of a church. For years, it was kind of like if you weren't a part of a church, what it really probably meant is you just hadn't been in a long time. Like you
Yes.
say, we're reaching on church 20 years ago. It's like, well, they probably went at some point. And I agree.
Yes.
Now you're getting far more people that really do have no experience, which is different. Like you can't assume
Yeah.
certain things. Like I know our pastor, that's one of
Right.
his superpowers, I would say, is when he preaches and all our services, he assumes nothing. Like he assumes nothing about what you know, or what is the Bible, and that it's a collection of books, or who Paul is, or you know what I mean. He never assumes anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
He talks, and with students, I think that's important too. Because you want to make them feel
Mhm.
welcome. That's great.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's talk about the book. So, what
Mm.
makes this book? Well, I guess kind of why did you write it, and what makes it different from other books on the similar topics?
I can go. Yeah, we just couldn't find it. We were both
Yeah,
looking
well,
for it.
while we wrote it. Yes, please. Mhm.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. We got a lag. Sorry. Just saying, we couldn't find it. We were looking for it, couldn't see it on the shelf. There's a lot of great books out there that teach on this topic, but we didn't want to just hand our kids a louder speaker that said, "Hey, do this, do this, do this," and just like, can we give them an opportunity to wrestle with the scriptures? Can we show them a question that they're probably asking, and then give them a better question? And so that was really where I was looking for a book. I couldn't find it. Heather was as well, and we just started talking about it.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yep. I want to have good stuff in the hands of kids. Not only my own students, but Tony and I also have the opportunity to go and speak in different places. And, they respond so well to our teaching that is very similar to how we write, right? With humor and with practical application and with fun illustrations that are memorable. And I just hate it when I leave a camp or a conference or a retreat and I don't have anything that they can take home and continue to dig in that way. And so, for both of those reasons, we're really excited.
Now, with any of these topics or all of these topics, singleness, dating, friendships, romance, what do you think is different if things are different from your perspective in youth ministry now than 10 years ago or 20 years ago? He's calling on you, Heather. I
Heather?
think it's your turn.
I know. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Well, I mean, it used to be so much more simple, right? And today, with all of the different labels and all of the fluidity and all of, I would say, in many cases, the confusion, I just feel like we need to turn up God's voice more. And I say it to parents often when we talk about the harder topics, right? Like dating, like pornography, sexual boundaries. I just say the world is screaming at our kids every day, 24 hours a day. And if we don't turn up God's voice, the natural winner is going to be the loudest voice. And it's incredible to me how many church kids we have who have a harder time articulating what God would have to say about singleness, dating, romance, or friendships. And so we just wanted to put it out there, get them thinking, get them interacting, and show them the truth from God's word.
Well, and that plus like language has changed too, how we talk to each other, how this generation talks to each other. And so, yeah, we can sort of from afar poke at and go, oh, they're always on their phones, but okay, but they are. So what are we going to do about that? How are we going to utilize that as part of the discussion? And I shared this story with Heather. I know it's funny. I took a group of guys and girls to a baseball game, and they're clearly into each other, like just a group of 10th grade guys, group of 9th grade girls. They're clearly into each other, but nobody's talking to each other. And they're using their phones to take selfies of each other, to strategically kind of behind, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until we were about to get in the car and leave the baseball game that one of them swapped Snapchat IDs with the other. And so I'm driving the group of guys, and in the back of my van, they're all talking like, "Where are the girls at? How do we find them?" And then the girls' van pulls up alongside of our vehicle, and they're literally hanging out the window doing the heart thing back and forth. So I'm like, they're right next door to you guys. Like seriously, just look. But and then we all got out of the car, we got ice cream, and nobody was talking to each other again. Like they don't know how to speak. So on one hand, like we need to teach them those elementary steps of here's how you do it, and then on the flip side, the language that we do choose has been so neutralized. Like it's no longer boyfriend or girlfriend. We're supposed to say partner now. It's no longer husband or wife. We're supposed to say partner. Like there's these changes to our language where they're even afraid to say they're dating, because if you say you're dating now, it means something. So we're not dating. We just go out and spend money on each other and hold hands. Like it's like, okay, but do you know that's called dating? So like there is this challenge. I love Heather. Can you talk about your retreat that you do with guys and girls? I think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, well, we have a particular group of 8th graders that we take to a spring retreat because they're about to be our 9th graders, and so we wanna invest in them and pour into them. But one of the things that we do on the first breakout on Friday night is we separate them into couplets, and it has become legendary, this word couplets, as you move into the end of your 8th grade year. But we basically just match them up, male and female, and they have to spread around the room, and I give them a list of questions that they have to talk about and answer, and they have to not only ask the question, but then they have to ask a follow-up question, and they're taking notes on the answers that people are doing. And then I make them stand up and connect with another couplet, and then the couplet has to introduce themselves to the other couplet. And then throughout the weekend, there will be times where I'm like, all right, we're getting off at Jimmy's Pizza. You got to sit across the table from your couplet. And it just changes the whole dynamic, but just trying to help them understand that we want to honor that we're brothers and sisters in Christ, and that you can have this thing called a friendship with somebody who is of the opposite sex, and that it's actually so fulfilling and meaningful in life. And it helps you in the future to get to know what guys are like, and what qualities you're looking for, and kind of who you connect with. But it is so funny to watch just the drama and the, oh, are you going to make us be with a couplet on this one? Or are we do I have to sit with my couplet on the bus? But then you could ask kids in ninth grade, 10th grade, who was your couplet, and they can remember. And it's just really, really a great thing that we do. And then just to add to that, at least twice a month in our ministry on Sundays or Wednesdays, we do what I call a communication exercise. I was a communication major at Bethel. I'm just a big fan of communicating. And I hate that we have, like Tony was describing, a generation that is glued to their screens and can't articulate with words or have a normal, what we would say is a normal, easy conversation. And so they have to get up and they have to go find somebody they normally don't talk to. And they either have to be knee to knee or face to face. And we run them through questions and they have to ask a follow up question. And we say, what do we want to practice? We want to practice active listening and eye contact. And my kids are really good at it. I think if you came into our room that you would distinguish them from others because we've actually practiced this. And I just talk about it. It's a life skill. Like when you want a job someday and when you want to convince the coach that you should have that playing spot. And when, so I'm just a big fan of those kind of things, but it makes me really happy when it's boys and girls together.
That's fun. One of our volunteers in my church, his son is in 6th grade. He's going to 7th grade here next week.
Yeah.
And I'm standing. He helps out. He's one of our worship leaders in our kids environment, and we're standing there before the service. And he's like, "How was your week, Mr. Nick?" And I was just thinking, like, you don't find a lot of like 7th graders who talk to you, like that. I was like, kudos to them. And here you are, you're raising them in your youth ministry. That's great.
We're doing our
That's
best.
cool. Yeah, doing your best. So you spoke a little, you have this annual retreat with 8th graders. You also talked about love, sex, and dating. It sounds like you do that every February.
Yeah.
I just love to hear from both of you. Like, how would you recommend leaders approach these topics from a teaching standpoint and small group leaders? Is it once a year? Is it, obviously this resource is going to help them tremendously, but just in terms of a scope or something like that, how often do you talk about that? What do you recommend?
Mm-hmm. Tony, I'll start with this one and then you can describe yours. But yeah, we do a full month series. And this last year, for some reason, we were trying to match the children's ministry. And so we lost a Wednesday night in February. And I was like, oh, no, we will not. We will not. So I grabbed the last Wednesday in March and I added that to our series so that we could be sure to have 4. But the kicker is we always do one of the nights as a parent night. You guys. So not only are we talking about God's design for sex with 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, 12 to 15-year-olds, but then we add their parents to the room. It is my favorite night of the year. And I tell parents and kids, I would do this every other month if I could, because I really think developmentally our kids are changing that fast, but it deserves at least one intensive month a year. And then this book will be given to our 8th grade life groups. We do life groups, small groups in both 7th and 8th grade. And in February of 8th grade, they'll get this book that they'll then continue on within their small groups, talking about it on more of an intimate, small group kind of level. And then any chance we have to talk about relationships when we are doing another series, or how does this play out? If you like somebody or if somebody likes you and you don't like them, we try to talk about as much as possible. But officially, those are the 2 places we do that. Tony?
Yeah, I think we probably both grew up in the same vein of like every February, everybody's thinking about it, everybody's talking about it. And so that really was really from the very beginning, it's always been my rhythm. Our rhythm is whether it's directly talking about love, sex, and dating, or just relationships in general. There's that. But to flip it, it's almost like, okay, shouldn't we also be talking about it all the time though too?
Mm-hmm.
And because where do most small groups go by the end of the night? It's relationships, whether it's home stuff or personal insecurities through singleness, or man, I think I'm into this guy. Do I share it with my group? And it's fun to see as groups grow in our ministry, the transparency that continues to increase every year as students start sharing a little bit more with each other or a little bit more with their leaders. So I think it's like anything, you've got to embed it into any message. You got to talk about, hey, like as we're talking this week about heaven, like the end times. So we just need to have that conversation. And of course, they want to know, well, but what about my relationships in heaven? What will happen? And every once in a while, if you're quiet enough, you'll hear that question: will there be sex in heaven? Like, so you gotta listen for those things because they're wondering. You just got to give them permission to share it out loud. So there's that. I think in testimony, you bring it up throughout the year. Like, yeah, I was doing this and I'm living out this attribute of faith in my relationships. And so, yeah, you just are always talking about it.
That's great. The book title starts with single. And so I'd love to hear like what you focused on in the book as it related to singleness.
Well, we're all going to be single. Yeah.
Go for it,
At some
Tony.
point. Yeah. I mean, we're all going to have that. Like we start out there and potentially you end up there and maybe you get married, and unless something happens at the same time, one of you will outlive the other. So singleness is very much a part of our lives. And one of my kids has chosen the path of singleness, just feeling that that's a God handed sort of value, and plans for the rest of their life to do that. And I'm like, okay, like how do I as a parent support that and go, are you sure? Because you'd make a great, spouse. So like just having a sense of like, this is a gift. Singleness isn't a penalty box until you wait for that special somebody. It's a moment that you get to connect to God in new ways. And so we just felt like we needed to honor that and make that a part of the conversation. And kind of how we wrote the book is, it's not, here's the singleness section, and now we're going to move on to the dating section, because I don't think anybody would want to read the singleness section. It's just woven throughout everything. We did the same thing with all the other topics too. There's just this kind of cool mosaic that takes place.
Yeah, I'm an off the chart extrovert, and so I've wanted to be married since I was like 4. And that didn't happen. I didn't get married until I was 28. And so I just remember feeling like, what am I supposed to do? I mean, I felt like I was very prepared for, sexual boundaries and for things like that. But what do I do when I don't even have the opportunity to talk about a sexual boundary with somebody who likes me? And so we both just really had this passion that there was a gap missing in the evangelical Christian church that talked honestly about singleness, but also what do you do about it and how do you work through that? And how do you use that time to glorify the Lord and to invest in other relationships that you have? And so I'm excited that that's woven in the book.
Do you feel like, I feel like culture within Christianity, maybe, I mean, I'm not talking about outside the church, but I do feel like people are being more biblically appropriate with singleness, the way Paul talks about it, in the sense that like it used to seem like it would be looked down upon, or what's going on here. I feel like it's getting better to where more and more Christians are actually viewing it the way the Bible talks about it, the way you all talk about it in the book. Do you sense that too? Do you feel like the culture is shifting where it's like, oh, no longer are we looking at this the wrong way? And it probably still got a long way to go, but how do you see it? Nobody wants to go first.
No.
I feel like I've stepped on Heather a couple times with the lag. So I'm going to let her go first and say either I got this or Tony's got it. And so, yeah, that's my method.
Yeah. I would say we're still struggling with it, Nick, in the evangelical church. I've got a couple friends who are in their 30s and early 40s that are single, and man, they just it's almost a weekly thing that they want to, somebody wants to set them up with their niece or with their cousin, because something, must be lacking if you don't want to be dating somebody or if you're not married. Christopher Yuan has really kicked my butt in his pursuit of, holiness overall in your sexuality, and this idea that we've kind of pitched marriage to be the be all end all and, the greatest love of all. And really it's not. The greatest love of all is the love that we receive from Jesus Christ. And it's not a goal that will then now complete you. And so just trying to help people understand that no matter where you are in regards to your sexuality or your dating or your relationships, are you pursuing holiness, and are you pursuing a life that's glorifying to the Lord? So I think we still need some work on it. Part of me wonders if the advancement that we do have is actually an influence from culture, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. But, in culture, it has become much more acceptable, right? To wait a lot longer before you get married, before you have kids. And if you're not married, it's more acceptable. But I think we've got a little ways to go in the church.
Oh no, I would agree. Yeah, I feel like I don't know how to describe it, but like if we got to go 100 yards, at least I feel like we're on the 20, our own 20. Like there's 80 more to go. You know what I mean? But like for
Yeah.
so long, we
Yes.
were just stuck at the zero. And I feel like
Yep.
and probably is more, I'm probably thinking more of like church leaders, preaching,
Sure.
people, our community of next gen leaders. Like I hear, I'm not surprised at all what you said about the 30 somethings in your church and people trying
Mm-hmm.
to set them up. That makes sense. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that it's
Mm-hmm.
passed on to like, the broader community, but like, I think of my pastor, like for the longest time, I feel like preaches this in a way that is biblically accurate. And that's been
Yeah.
good. I think about my own kids, because you can fall into that trap without even really thinking about it. So like with my kids, I try to be my kids are young, 11, 8, and 5, but I try to be very
Mm.
intentional that if you choose to get married, if you
Yes.
have kids,
Yes.
versus I would think
Yes.
I probably didn't do that before this was,
Nope.
before I started being taught this in a better way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a different perspective now. Tony, anything else to add
Mm.
there?
Yeah, I think your language is really healthy because that is something that I think we grew up with ourselves. Like, oh, at some point you get married, you build a life, you build a family, and then it just keeps going generation to generation. And that if question, boy, what a game changer, because now the student, whether it's your kid or somebody else, is going, yeah, should I or shouldn't I? Not that I have to, but I get to choose this. I get to embrace what it
Mm-hmm.
means. I get to fully enter into this, and there's a real gift to it. I think also with language, I've changed even my language on what I say the purpose of dating is. I used to say, the purpose of dating is to prepare you for marriage, and I think in some ways it is that, but I think the larger takeaway is the purpose of dating is that you give the gift of Jesus to somebody else in a season that is unique to how you might be giving it to somebody else. Like your purpose is to help them in their wholeness with God to grow. That's the purpose of dating. Because then if the dating doesn't work out and you separate, it's clean, it's good. It hasn't been all about, well, we were going to get married and now we're heartbroken and we can never talk
Mm-hmm.
to each other again. But now it's, hey, I made a friend in a really cool, unique way. And while our lives are going this way now, we're gonna wish each other well. We're gonna pray for each other's best and we see each other. Or, if I end up attending her or his wedding, like it's not gonna be wonky. It's gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and like there's a real gift to that. So I think language and values are probably in our court more than we realize in how we're handling it.
Mm-hmm. I remember a conversation with my pastor and someone else who's single, and he said, I think we all have to be able to answer the question, like, do we really believe that ultimately God can fulfill us of anything?
Yes.
So that we don't have to have whatever, and you could put that in any category, but like we don't have to have a partner or something like that. So, which I thought, and that was a powerful question. Made that person think, made me think. It's like, yeah, we don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that in a lot of things. There's a lot of things where we think we believe that, but then when it comes down to it, it's like, no, I also feel like I need this.
Yes.
I
Yes.
need this too.
Yes.
So that's good. All right,
Well,
last
and if I
question.
could
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, just to add to that, like singleness is such a great window to figure out what manhood and womanhood is as well. Because, like, and I'm stealing this question from one of my sons, but he's like, man, is when you think of what a man is, do you think of Samson or do you think of Jesus? And like, because there's some stereotypes there that we're wrestling with here. And when you think of what a woman is, like, again, do you think of this sort of sultry, like, Proverbs 31 perfection that I don't know anybody. I mean, my wife does a pretty good job of coming close to that, but nobody's ever going to
Mm-hmm.
fully nail that. Or is this the woman who's just cast herself at the feet of Jesus and who's just worshiping him? Like, is that what a woman is? And so like we try to just raise those questions. We've got chapters like what are guys thinking? What are girls thinking about each other? To try to just help them understand there's a roundabout way to do this where it's not like it's not always so clean and bumper sticker-ish. Like you got to go on the journey of
Mm-hmm.
really just being messy and being hard, but you can do it in community. And like we would love for people to read this in community with each other. Read it with
Mm-hmm.
moms and dads. Read it with your kids. Read it with small groups. Like that's the real beauty, because then you start hearing from each other and going, oh, that's good. And now we're resetting our language as a
All right, my last question. You all touched on this a little bit. Like Heather, you talked about how you have parents involved in that one of the
Yeah.
weeks of your series, and Tony, you've got the pals thing. How can youth leaders better partner with parents, and how even this resource helps with that? You just talked about reading it, with parents. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first started at 19, you guys, I literally stayed inside the building in hopes that no parents would get out of their car at pickup and come in and ask me a question. I just, like I said, I loved kids and I loved Jesus, but I didn't know. I didn't know so much. And now I love that it's changed, and it changed, I would say probably in my mid 20s, where now I'm out on the sidewalk, right? And I'm literally knocking on the windows like, hi, who do you belong to? And wanting conversations with parents. So we just try to normalize it as much as we can, which is why we have that one parent night during that series. But we also have celebrations. So for our 2 big trips, Project Colorado with our 9th graders, and then summer camp, which we just came back from on Friday night. We don't come back, get off the bus, and send them into their cars. We come back, get off the bus, greet our parents, go inside to the great room, and do what's called the celebration, which for 45 to 60 minutes, we try to give them a window as to what we experienced. I do guided conversations. As the highlight video is going, I tell the kids that they're offering color commentary, to their parents the whole time. They have to sit in the middle of their parents to talk with them, and just trying to help this be normal, that I just interact with my parents and I share life with my parents. But this like Tony mentioned, for our book, we actually want parents and grandparents to read this. And if it's too much for the kid to read it, like, in bed, cuddled up side by side, which I think for most would be weird, I want the grandparent to read this before they give it to their kid. So they've got that language. So they've got those prompts. So they've got that, hey, I remember, and the kid knows it. So they're like, I remember reading that chapter on like sexual boundaries. Like, that was weird to me. Like, what did you think about that, or whatever? But we want to just open up the conversation, because that's another way of turning up God's voice, right? By turning up the voices of the parents so that kids can hear something other than the culture.
Yeah,
it's good.
I don't know what your experience has been so far, Heather, but it's been really funny for me to, as this book continues to get out. Like, so obviously we wrote it with students in mind, young adults in mind, hoping like this next generation really grabs hold of something. But there are people who have approached me in their 30s and 40s who have said, so can I read that too? I'm like, well, yeah, give it a shot. You might have to swap out 5 to 10% of the words or the ideas here. But one of my neighbors, he's come to Jesus for the last several years. He's been, talking about a lot of these things. Single guy. He's got a couple kids, but he's reading this. He's getting a ton out of it. So I'm like, you know what? I don't think this is just a top-down book. I think this is a 360 kind of situation where, as you're trying to share this with your whomever, students or kids or whomever, your church, like there can be something in here for you, or maybe even something that resets, because there's been a lot of well-meaning movements over the years in Christendom to try to get us living the way God wants to in these areas. And there's been a lot of here's what you do, but not a lot of the here's the why. Here's where it comes from. And the Bible doesn't mention the word dating, but it talks a lot about relationships. And is there wisdom to be found in arranged marriages? Not that we should be pushing that culturally, but what's the concept of arranged marriage? Well, somebody who knows you and somebody who knows you says, hey, there could be a real win here. And so could we be open to the values of the Bible like that? Like, would you be open to people speaking into this area of your life? So that, I think those are the types of things we just want to say, well, what does the Bible say? And then how do we pull out something for us today that affects all of us in how we change our language as parents, and how we teach this in churches, and ultimately how this next generation can run with Jesus, not just with values, but run with Jesus into their future.
All right. Well, thank you for writing this book. I think you're right. When you said you looked around, you couldn't find anything exactly right. I think you're right. So thank you for writing the book. Thank you for your ministry too. I think about me personally. I grew up attending church, and so much of my life and my faith is a reflection of my youth pastor. And man, how many people say that for you? And both of you are a huge influence to youth leaders all over. So thank you for that as well. How can people connect with you? And they can get the book at YM360 or Amazon, right? I think it's cheaper on YM360 maybe, but yeah, how can they connect with you and get the book?
Yeah, both of those ways are great. And then Instagram's probably the best way for me to DM me on Instagram. That's where I live with most of my social status for my junior high students. But would love to connect with you and be an encouragement to you. Tony and I just really, we are also the product of so many who poured into us as we were younger youth leaders. And for me, especially as a woman in ministry, I just know it's hard to find other women who are in it for the long haul. So would love to be an encouragement, but DM on Instagram is the best for me.
Yeah, likewise. It's just TonyMyles. And Heather, you want to spell your name so they got it?
Yeah, Heather, it looks like flies, but it's pronounced fleece, but it's just my name. And there will be lots of pictures of dogs. So then you'll know it's me.
You're in the right place.
That sounds
yeah, and then yeah, and you're right. YM360, they'll give you bulk discounts if you buy this for a lot of people in your church. Heather and I are available to just chat, or if you want to bring us in and do something together, we'd love to serve you guys that way too.
Yes, that would be very smart. Parents and leaders and students that
Yes.
can take advantage of the whole thing. Just practice it, and you'd be a great voice for all three of those audiences. Well, thank you both.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nick.